You are currently the only person in this conference.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me? Just need to do an audio check. Good, that's fine then. Yes, in which case I'm good to go. It's actually Moodle Orange. I don't know if you can see the back, but it has the Moodle logo on. It's from our bet show in the UK every year. Got a few minutes to go, but it's it'll be interesting following Martin. I was just in his one as well.
Hi Ben, Leonie here. I'll be your moderator and assistant for tonight. Just yell out if you need anything. Everything going well for you for now?
Yep, everything's fine for now.
Beautiful. Just yell out if you need anything.
Will do.
We're due to start in about 10 minutes. So I'll just before you get started, I'll just do a quick brief introduction if you like.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Great. Okay. I'll talk to you soon. Hi everybody, Leonie from Pukunui here, part of the iMoot support team for iMoot 2013. A big welcome to you all and thanks so very much for joining us. I'd just like to take the opportunity to introduce Ben Wagner. Ben will be doing his presentation on being Mr Moodle and sharing some of his joys and successes of working with Moodle. So I'd like to thank Ben on behalf of the Moodle community for taking the time out and putting this presentation on. And welcome to iMoot 2013. Ben, over to you.
Thank you, Leonie. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. I know we had a couple of sound problems in Martin's talk, so if anyone can't hear me, just why don't you that there, and then I can maybe kill the video if need be. So just let me know.
Sound
My
good,
talk. That's good. Thanks, Fred. My talk is about being Mr Moodle. So first off, a bit of background about who I am. These are my contact details. If anyone wants to get hold of me, you can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I work for Web Anywhere, one of the Moodle partners based here in the UK. And a Mr Moodle, or as my subtitle points out, it can be a Mr, Mrs, Ms, or anything else Moodle, is really one of those key people in any organisation running Moodle. Now, I've been focused more on a school environment. That's my background. I started off working for various government departments in the UK in IT. Moved into e-learning whilst working for a charity, and then I moved on into schools IT directly and picked up Moodle working in a school based in York in the UK. So my background really was as one of these Mr Moodles. It was a bit of baptism of fire, I have to say. I was using Moodle 1.9.7 at the time, way back when, and basically landed in a school that had a Moodle to tick a Ofsted inspector's box, but didn't really do anything with it. So it's very much up to me to lead on the launch and implementation of Moodle, get everything going, and get the teachers up to speed. This is kind of what I'll be talking about in this speech, is a little bit about how that was and the pitfalls, and some of the things I learned that can hopefully make your guys' lives a bit better if you too are Mr, Mrs, or Ms Moodle. Now, first up, who are they? Who are these Mr Moodles and where do you find them? Well, the main way to look at them is for job role. Some organisations will have an e-learning coordinator, which is a dedicated kind of job to do the Moodle implementation. Other times you tend to land someone who's an IT technician or an IT curriculum teacher. Or sometimes, particularly in smaller schools, you might have someone who's just another teacher in a different department, or even someone who's a member of the senior leadership team. It really can vary. If you look at your organisation and you use Moodle and you look around and you can't think who your Mr Moodle is, the chances are it's probably you. I've found in past experience those who kind of go, we don't have one of those people, are the ones turning up at events and learning about Moodle, and they're usually the people that the senior leadership rely on to lead the Moodle implementation. Now, the other side of this slide is what do they do? It's a many varied role. It has lots of kind of side parts and lots of different functions. Big part is questions, support and training. That's kind of the really key part of your day-to-day if you're a Mr Moodle in a school. You're the first point of call for people to come and talk to you, for people to ask questions, people to do training sessions with you, whether that's kind of organised training or drop-in sessions or anything like that. That's really kind of where things come from. Another kind of less known part can be the bottom 2 points on the right hand side, which are the resourcing and stakeholders and being the project leader. In terms of resourcing, obviously like many other things, Moodle requires server space and bandwidth and things like that. Often in a school environment, particularly at the moment, budgets are cut, budgets are short, so you kind of have to be the person fighting to get that resource. The other part is your stakeholders, and I'll be looking a bit more in depth at stakeholders in a little bit. But really your stakeholders are anyone who's involved in a project. And a lot of them have different opinions, different ideas, different thoughts as to what they want to do with the Moodle in your organisation. So part of your role as Mr Moodle or Miss Moodle is to actually balance those opinions and ideas and make sure that everyone feels engaged in the project. And a lot of that leads into actually being a project leader. Some of you may have some background in project management. A lot of us, myself included, when I landed the Mr Moodle role, didn't. And it can be very hard to kind of balance that with a more techie background. but really you have to be at the forefront of running the Moodle, both on a technical sense and actually getting things working, but also on the implementation sense and making sure people are happy with how things are going and what you're doing. Now, the first part really is being a Mr Moodle can be a very lonely part of your life. You can find very isolated, particularly if the school's focus is in another area. But there are lots of support you can gather. And these are some of the ones I used to use. Senior leadership engagement's a key one. You'll very rarely find you get the entire senior leadership behind you. But if you can get one or two key members of staff who are on the senior leadership board or on the senior leadership team, and they're really behind what you're saying and your push for Moodle, that can really make your life a lot easier when it comes to actually getting things done and implementing things. Looking for other teachers, in your school, you'll have some teachers, and we all know who they are, who are tech fans, who always have the latest iPhone, always got a new laptop, were the first person to try an iPad in the classroom, all that sort of thing. Look at them to be your friends in this, because they'll often have the same sort of passion you do for technology. They might be more towards other things like iPads in classrooms, but you can certainly have some crossover and make sure that you help each other out. Another thing that I was quite fond of was hooking up with other schools in the region. It's surprising nowadays that people don't realise this sometimes, but almost every school has a VLE of some description. Particularly in the UK, we've seen that most schools have some sort of e-learning provision. A lot of them will use Moodle, and being able to talk to each other, being able to compare experiences can make you feel a lot better. Particularly if you can find the other Mr Moodles, or the Mr VLEs as sometimes called. That can help you out and give you a lot of empathy, a lot of sympathy for when things have gone wrong. But also you might be trialing different sort of ideas and different sorts of approaches, and that again can feed into a lot of new suggestions for your school. Universities in your area can be another big factor. By your area, we can mean very locally. I'm blessed in York that when I was setting up Moodle, I had 2 universities nearby, one of which used Moodle in a big way and one used it in some departments. So that gave me a lot of people to connect with. But in area, you can even be talking countrywide or regionally, Asia Pacific as a region, and look at universities. They often have quite a lot of dedicated IT staff, a lot of which are Moodlers. And if you can get to any conferences with them, just get contacts, that sort of thing, LinkedIn can be quite good for this. You can actually find some other people to talk to. The other side of things is looking more at the IT staff. We've looked so far more at kind of other people like teachers and other institutions. Often the Mr Moodle might not actually be the network manager or the IT technician. And if you can get those other IT staff in your school on board with the Moodle project, that can really help you out. It can sometimes be seen as that guy deals with Moodle and we don't, which is a shame, but does often happen in schools. But if you can get the whole team together and the whole team passionate about e-learning, that gives you a lot more support and coverage for when you're trying to get things done. The other thing, which is a trend that I only started seeing in the last few years, but I've been told is more prominent elsewhere, particularly in the US, is working groups in certain regions. Sometimes these are educational based, so like educational e-learning groups, and it might be 10, 20, 30 schools in the area have a monthly meeting and all the network managers or VLE managers meet up and have a Q&A session, sometimes get external speakers, that sort of thing. The other side is to look at just general IT usage. I'm a member of the British Computer Society here in the UK, and they do very regular talks around the country and Q&A sessions and that sort of thing. I know there's similar sorts of organisations around the world in terms of IT usage and IT professionals, and trying to connect with those sorts of groups and see if there's anyone in the local area or regional area that you can have meetings with and get to know. In terms of external support, there's lots of places you can look. There's obviously the Moodle Partner Network that most of you, I hope, will have heard of. So they can do things like training, consultancy, and that sort of thing. But that's more of an obvious one. There's a lot more kind of non-obvious side of things that you can look at. Local councils are quite good. So if you're part of a council or a consortium, particularly if you're in the UK and you deal with academies, you might be in charge of a consortium. They often have very senior experts. They might have connections with the people in the consortium or council using the same software. They might even have people that have got experience in business using the software that you're using. So it's just looking for that sort of side of things. Yeah, I've never been to a JISC session. Jordan's just highlight that in chat. But yeah, I have heard they're quite good for particularly the university side of things. But even at a secondary school, if you do up to 18, you might be able to find you can connect through. General hardware and software support. This is one that's often neglected. If you've got a big contract with a supplier, and they supply your desktop hardware or they supply your server infrastructure, you may find that they're already doing something with Moodle. Maybe they generate SCORM content, maybe they've got an LTI plugin, something like that. Or maybe they're interested, and if you go to them with an idea and say, well, we've got this library software, lots of people use Moodle, would you guys be interested in developing some sort of integration? You may actually find you're the 10th or the 50th person to ask them, and it actually develops some integration for it. So I think it's always worth talking to your kind of non-e-learning suppliers and trying to find out if there's anything they can do. They might already have a plugin and you're just not aware of it. But equally, the more users that ask them might actually get them moving on to new features and integrations. There's also lots of online forums and societies. LinkedIn is a good place to find some of these groups. There's obviously Facebook. EduGeek, I know, is very popular in the UK. I'm not sure how popular it is worldwide, but that's a big IT forum. There's obviously the Moodle forums as well, not to neglect them. But there's lots of places online you can find some advice, get some guidance from people, and also try to find some expert opinions. Yeah, that's one thing I love about the Moodle forums, is that you're not just talking with other Moodle users, the Moodle devs are on there, people in head office are on there. It's a really nice way of getting some ideas out there and trying to find out some more information. Now, one side I want to highlight more for the teacher side of things, which is something I was certainly very involved in, is gifted and talented students. I know these are often called different things in different countries, but the concept, certainly in the UK, of gifted and talented is that top kind of 10% of students that always score well, but your intention is to kind of push them beyond, stretch them past what they can do by kind of coasting along. And what I found is I got particularly involved in gifted and talented for IT when I was in a school, and they didn't really have much in the way of projects to do. They had really dynamic teachers driving them in their lessons, but a lot of these kids would go home and they try to make games or they try to play on things at home. And what I found is actually you could channel some of that into Moodle itself. Now what I tried to do on this slide is divide this up into three kind of key sections. Top left is IT students. So what I like to do is get them out finding resources online, things like SCORM content and plugins you can find. Actually getting them to work on blocks and plugins. Even for those of you that have never touched them, writing a basic block isn't that hard. I had some kids writing some very basic ones. I even have some of my staff at the place I currently work who kind of aren't really on the dev side, writing very basic blocks. They're kind of just mostly text-based static blocks, but it gets them used to the idea of writing code, of learning a bit of PHP. And it is a lot of copy and paste, but the more they try that sort of thing, the more you can kind of drive that interest. The other side of things is developing actual areas of the Moodle. So maybe there's kind of student-led areas, maybe there's areas where you've got kind of teachers who are a bit weaker. You can send these kids out and sort of help them develop. Unfortunately, you often find the students the quickest to pick these things up. Oh, I'm sorry, Ashley, has anyone else having problems with my audio? Okay, what I'll do, I'm just going to temporarily kill the video feed for now. And hopefully if anyone is having some issues, they should be able to still hear me. So if I do go quiet, give me a shout because I tend to keep talking. The second area that I was highlighting was art students in the lovely picture frame to the right hand side. It seems quite odd to talk about art students, but you can have things like icon design. A lot of Moodles, certainly the ones I've seen, have icons on their front page. Martin in his talk was talking about course summary icons, that sort of thing. So have them actually design them, get them used using Photoshop. You can even have them design them on paper and scan them in. People often don't think about it, but you can have some really nice icons designed by hand and then scan them in and get them going. If you're looking more at the kind of English and literature side, or whatever language your local language is, you often have school newspapers in schools. There's absolutely no reason this can't go on a Moodle with a category and you have a course per weekly design, anything like that. So it's really, really easy to get that going. Pictures for the header. A lot of schools like kind of graphical headers that have the school icon and photographs. If you've got a photography course, you can have them doing the photos. You can have them doing photo shoots for the school newspaper. You can really engage those students. And I think if you can get the students to lead on the graphics and design, again, it gives them some engagement. It's really nice for a kid to say, oh, that icon on the homepage for maths, I did that, I designed that, that was me. And it gives them sort of that pride. The other side of it is your science students. I'm leaving IT out of the sciences here for now because we've dealt with them separately. But you have your science technology students. Again, this is, excuse me a second, my cat has just decided to attack me. Sorry about that. This is often a neglected area of Moodle usage with the sciences. Sometimes people think, oh no, it's all handheld experiments. You have to do everything manually like that. One of the key things I found is screencasting. We used to have some very little flip cameras that are kind of tiny little things. I've turned video back on, Gordon, just in case it happens again, so you can tell why I've gone quiet. Tiny little cameras that you could record things, record an experiment happening, record a reaction in a test, or record some field work if you've gone out of the school. Once that's all been recorded, you can then upload that onto Moodle really simply and use the media plugins to play it directly in Moodle. So I think that sort of thing is really, really good. I think nowadays we're moving more towards mobile and apps. Using anything out of school is a big thing. You often get people going out on field trips, whichever subject area they're from. So that's become a really key thing now. And also being able to broadcast what the teacher's doing. You can have things like art projects or science projects. Rather than having to constantly demonstrate it, the teacher can actually record them doing a demo, and then the students are able to watch that in their own time and try to simulate things as well. There's lots you can do there with the gifted and talented area of the students. Now, Moodle Champions. This is something I'm very fond of. Now, the idea of a Moodle Champion is you find a volunteer, or lots of volunteers if you can manage it, and you get them really engaged in the Moodle. And the idea is that these teachers help you lead Moodle development in school. Now, it's often very easy to get the IT department enamored of e-learning, but your real kind of key asset is if you can get people who aren't in the IT department. So I know Mary's in here. Mary's a languages teacher, and that can be ideal if you get someone like that in your Moodle Champions group. For most schools, the main sources would be things like the sciences, technology and CDT courses, English in terms of lots of essay submissions, quick answer questions, that sort of thing. You can now all see my cat, who I'm just going to cuddle for a moment because she's getting stroppy. Newly qualified teachers are always good. So anyone who's just joined the school looking to make a good impression, that can be really nice. And also, as I mentioned before, your tech fans in the teaching staff. So anyone who's a big fan of a technology, always have the iPad, that sort of thing. Now, as Gordon's mentioned, rewards are a key thing. You can make them feel more appreciated. Off timetable time can be the best one if you can pull it off. Give them some actual time in the week to work on the Moodle. As can cash rewards, staffing increments, that sort of thing. Yes, Richard, you could give them an open badge. I've just been playing with them myself today, so yeah, that is always a good idea. But I think one of the sides of it to highlight more is the more soft rewards. These are often easier to get past your management if budget's tight. So things like maybe vouchers to buy a book, if they want to buy a Moodle book, trips to events, tickets to things like the iMoot. In the UK, we have a big technology show every year called Bet Show. So something like, having them get a ticket to the Bet Show and travel down to that. Anything like that that can really help them, to feel a bit more engaged and feel that their contribution is rewarded. Now, I mentioned right at the beginning about stakeholder management, and as you can see from the slightly complex diagram, there's quite a lot of stakeholders often with Moodle integration. And I think one of the key things if you are the Mr Moodle is to try to manage them, try to develop them all, but make sure you're not dealing with any sort of conflicting requests. So the big one to begin with is your SLT, your senior leadership team, or your governors as well. This can be directors in some country, anyone that has an interest in running the school, sometimes trustees as well. Now, a lot of their focus will be on things like branding and design. So particularly if you want the students to lead in design, you've got to get the SLT on board with that, get them happy that that's how it's going to do. We have a group in the UK called Ofsted, who are school inspectors. Obviously that'll be different in most countries, but most countries nowadays have an inspectorate system of some sort. So obviously the SLT are going to be concerned about the inspections. If there is, like there is in the UK, a requirement for a VLE part of your inspection, they're going to be watching that. And not to go for too many acronyms, but CPD, which is Continual Professional Development, is a big thing. So again, this is where badges can actually come into it as well. If you can do things like your child protection accreditation on Moodle and get a badge for it, that can be good for the SLT. They can see which teachers have passed that accreditation. And obviously the ROI, so the return on investment. So if you can demonstrate that this makes it life easier for teachers, this saves marking time, this improves grades, and that's all things that the SLT want to hear. Now teachers, your core audience, so to speak, the big one for them is easy. They want it to be easy. They don't want it to be a lot of hassle. They want it to be straightforward. They want it to be lesson enhancing, not distracting. That's the key thing when you're trying to roll out Moodle to a pile of teachers. The first thing they're saying is, oh, but that's not how I teach. You know, I teach like this, I teach like that. And it's exactly the same with any new technology, be it interactive whiteboards, be it iPads, be it anything like that. What you want to do is convince the teachers that they can use Moodle to help them teach, not constrict them or make them teach in a different way. And I think more and more when we're getting into kind of the mid-2 region of 2.2 or 2.5, get them to see it's nice and easy, things like drag and drop text, drag and drop files, all of that can make it seem a lot easier to them. Yeah, Gordon, just to mention as well, I had put time saving on my first draft of the slide, but it's kind of a controversial one because initially, when you get started, Moodle does take up a lot of time. However, as you say, when they get going, it does actually speed things up a lot. So kind of pitching that as a long-term gain can be good as well. A lot of the time as well for teachers, they suffer with access to their systems from home. In most corporate environments, companies have very good VPNs set up. You can get very easy access from home. My experience, a lot of schools don't really have that sort of infrastructure. Some do, some don't. But having something like Moodle where they can access all their lesson plans and all their files from home, and it's exactly the same interface as they would in school, can be a real big winner for them. In terms of students, tech-friendly, mobile and modern, it's all very self-explanatory, but they do pick these things up very fast, so the more you can make it friendly for them, the better. In terms of your IT techs, you don't want to annoy them, you don't want to make it hard for them, so things that's easy to maintain. I find the key thing for IT techs when they first see Moodle is they see the big long settings menu, and that does daunt a lot of them, they get kind of panicky. When you show them the settings search box, where they can just search for any command and it brings up the settings page, they tend to calm down a lot and feel a lot happier. Also, showing them that Moodle has very easy integration with a lot of systems, that it's open source, that can put their mind at ease as well. One thing to mention as well is feeder schools. A lot of schools these days have primary schools attached to secondary and further schools. You want to make it really easy for these guys to pick up, and particularly if you can generate accounts for them, that lets their students, who are usually kind of last year primary schools, maybe year 6 in the UK, they can get a hang of what's going on and get onto the Moodle before they start secondary school, so it's a lot less daunting. Now, nice big smiley face for you all. Try to get as close to Moodle Orange as I could. Be approachable is the key thing. It's no good being kind of the IT boffin sat in the corner. You need to be out there in the school and in the community. So key things here, I'm just going to keep on top of the summaries, is target everyone. Don't leave senior leadership out. Don't be scared of going to senior leadership. If you're trying to get some NQT to spend his time doing Moodle at home and get his Moodle course up to date, you also need to be going to the deputy head and getting him to do it too. If you can get the senior leadership doing it, then the junior staff will follow. So it's really key to involve them. Get on the Moodle forums, ask questions. Don't be afraid of being, seen to be silly. We've all been there. We've all asked something and someone's turned around and said, oh no, you got it wrong there. Here's how to do it. Again, for your staff, if they can see that, you're willing to ask the question on their behalf, that can make them feel a lot happier about things. Having drop-ins is a key thing. So organised training sessions are good, and we'll have a little look at them a bit later. But just having a session maybe at lunchtime where you say, right, from 12 to 1, I'll be in my office. Anyone wants to pop in, they're more than welcome to. That can be really nice and a really nice way of getting some engagement. Anonymous box, I would suggest not leaving this out where students can get to it, otherwise you might have some interesting responses. But putting a box somewhere in the staff room where teachers can make suggestions, put in ideas, raise their concerns, might actually get you to some issues that you're not really aware of in IT. I trialled this and I found out that the course formats really weren't working for my teachers. After installing 15 new ones to let them have a play, they suddenly found something that they really liked and they were a lot happier. But I don't think anyone would have come to me directly and said, by the way, I don't like this. It took a bit of work to get them to put it in anonymously. One of the key things of being involved in the community of the school is to sit in on other meetings. You do slightly come across as slightly nosy with this, so you have to be careful how you pitch it. But what I found is e-learning is so integral to a school nowadays that if you sit in your isolated little IT bubble, you often miss out on a lot of that. If you go out to staff meetings and weekly departmental meetings and career development meetings, and you're in all of those, and people say, oh, we should survey the staff, that's when you can pipe up and say, actually, we could do that through Moodle. That's quite straightforward. And you just start getting Moodle more integrated with the rest of the school's life. And the key one, I think it's my only use of capitals in this presentation, is don't patronise. A lot of these teachers started off in the days before IT was a really big part of their lives, and it can be very daunting, it can be very scary. I always compare it to IT people as a part of the first time you see a new language in IT. So I had it when I first started playing with PHP. It's very, very scary, and if you're sat next to some developer who's been doing it 10 years and just looks at you and goes, oh, well, that's easy, I don't know why it's taking you so long, that can really put you off straight away. So I think with Moodle users, you have to be very careful and make sure that if someone needs to take baby steps, you help them and support them, and you don't patronise them and you don't make them feel like they're doing it wrong. Now, training sessions have a few acronyms in here to keep you going, because I know everyone likes acronyms. These can be key to your Moodle implementation. One of the biggest mistakes I see in schools sometimes is not varying times and days. So the Mr Moodle goes, right, Thursdays after school are good for me, I'll do a session between 4 and 5. Some teachers just aren't available that day. Now, if you did one on Tuesday as well, they might be available for that. Now, obviously, even the Mr Moodles have to go home sometimes. So what I found is having a published diary of sessions, and they vary between various free lessons, various lunch breaks, and various after-school sessions. Then you find that the teachers can get to one of them at least, or at least have no excuse if they were busy every time. Aiming to cascade training is a key one. This is partly to use your Moodle Champions. Use them to cascade out. So if you know some people respond well to training, get them trained up and then try to get them to train their own departments. It can be a lot easier for someone to learn off of someone in their own department rather than learning from someone in IT. Documentation and notes are key. I will try to publish this presentation into my course on that note. But what I think is really important is if you can write some documentation for the feature you're teaching them, or find the appropriate documentation on Moodle's website in the docs section, then people feel a bit more reinforced, they can read it later, they can come back to it and that sort of thing. The next one is BAR, which I'm sure I've read somewhere, but I couldn't find where it was to give you the link. But it's about making training sessions bite-sized, advertised, and regular. The key thing, this actually came from an idea about GCSE revision, is if you try to teach everything at once, people lose interest, they get distracted, they get confused, they fall behind. So maybe run a training session on how to set up a quiz. That's it. Just that one little thing. Just pick that and do it. Key thing is advertising it. It's no good you sitting there trying to train people, only 2 people turn up. You need to be letting people know, getting people interested, regularly letting them know, and by the way, the next session is Tuesday, and keep those sessions regular. So if it's only once a month, at least they know it's once a month and it's the first week of every month. But the more regularly you can do them, the better, because they'll pick things up faster. And SMART, I've nabbed from some project management documentation I've been learning recently, which is a way of setting targets, really, but I think it's good for training sessions too, that you make them specific, so about a specific topic or objective, measurable, so a lot of teachers use these things, so they'll start off the training session saying, by the end of this course, we should be able to do X, Y, and Z. Make them achievable. Don't try to teach them everything there is to know about Moodle in less than an hour. Part of that's making them realistic as well. So make it realistic if you've got somebody who's never seen Moodle before. Try to teach them some of the basics and be happy if they can drag some files onto a course. Don't try to go too far too fast. And time bounds, try to make sure that you tie into the time you have available. So if you've only got 1 hour a month and that's all you're allowed to use, then try to break things up to make use of that time. Don't try to just cram more into the same time. Now this is a key one. Don't get hung up on design. One of the killers I've seen of Moodle projects is people spending months and months and months working on the designs. And then the Moodle's still sat there empty with no content, with nothing going on. I'd always rather launch Moodle with a basic theme. The new Bootstrap themes are very good for that. Get things rolling and then come back to the design as time goes on, because your Moodle champions can still get used to things. You know, the functionality doesn't tend to change when you change the design. It's more just how things look. Sometimes it's worth insourcing, so throw the graphic design fully out of the IT department, give it to a marketing department or anything like that, let them crack on with it. Start with your initial design, so one of the standard themes with a logo added. Get other people involved, get students involved. A lot of, particularly academies in the UK now, actually pay external companies to manage their branding. So they manage everything from the school logo to the students' uniforms, things like that. So if you've got a company like that on board, throw it at them as well, have them deal with that as well. And the key thing there is design does not equal functionality. That's the big message to drive home. It may not look that pretty, but it still works fine and you can still teach from it. Just to address Gavin's point, I think getting the site appealing will really play into when you're dealing with the non-techie teachers and try to roll things out further. I think my main thing is for your Moodle champions, your kind of key people. What I don't like seeing is when people have wasted 6 months of worrying about what graphic size and what font to use, and the champions could have already been on the site and having a play and getting used to it and that sort of thing. So I think the key thing is, although design is important, to make sure it's not the blocker for the project moving forward. Now, this is a key one, and this is very much a launch issue. The Moodle plugins are really good, and I love them, and I love installing new ones, particularly on my test sites. But what I've seen before is that people go very overboard, install 40 or 50 plugins, which makes it very confusing, particularly if you've got 9 different forum plugins and 4 different wiki plugins, and teachers are kind of not really sure what to use. So I think when you're very first launching Moodle, look at the core plugins only. Just stick to core for the first few months to get people used to things. Excuse me. And let your teachers and your champions lead on the plugin development. There's some stuff that in IT we may find exciting, but if the teachers aren't going to use it, it's not got any legs behind it. So the trick is to get them engaged, get them selecting them. I think as well, a staging site or a testing site is really key as well. Having somewhere where you can test the plugins, get them used to them, see how they're using in a lesson can be really key as well. Now I'm going to a few more kind of techie things for a few minutes, so sorry if that's not really your background. One of the key things you can do is LDAP integration. It's dead simple. It's built straight into Moodle. It's kind of hard to see, but the little picture there on the computer is actually the LDAP settings page from directly within Moodle. If you're looking to find it, it's under plugins and authentication, and then you just have to manage authentication methods and turn on LDAP. Now, this is one of the key ways of selling it to your IT staff, because once you authenticate through LDAP, any deletion, locking or banning of accounts is replicated in real time. So that's really, really key for getting everything correct there and getting everything easy to use. SSO is also possible within the school site, so having it where they open up the site and it single signs on straight through is really, really good. I've noticed we've got an error there with a repeated box, sorry about that. Now, language packs. Language packs are your friend. Now, there's 2 real ways to use language packs. Changing languages by course can be really good, so altering the language settings for a more foreign language, opening it up to English as a foreign language, anything like that. But also editing your language strings to adapt to your institution. I've got the language strings page open there. What's really nice is you can actually change your strings around to make things match. So if you call a course a lesson, you can change that in Moodle as well. Now, utilizing all features of Moodle is key. So it's not just the ones you're told to. And I think conditional activities and things like badges as well are kind of key things for this. So some things will be led by the teachers, so they'll say, this is what we want to do, this is what we find useful. But some of it, I think you guys as the Mr Moodles and the Mrs Moodles have to lead on as well and really push them forward and say, this is what we should be doing. And I think conditional activities, for those who haven't used them, are a really, really good feature here. What happens with the conditional activities is once the student has scored a certain mark, they can then move on to a more hard bit of work or an easier bit of work. It means in one particular course, you can actually have 3 or 4 work streams running at once. So you can have some gifted intelligence students running on some of the harder things, some of the weaker students doing catch-up activities to try to get up to speed, and the more middling students on kind of the standard work. And it does mean that you kind of have a lot more scope within a single course to really nuance the work that's involved. The other nice thing on the back of that is that you can actually see which students completed which activity, and hence see how people are performing as well. And this is kind of the last really techie slide. This is one that comes up a lot when people ask me about how to do Moodle and how things work. It's about integrations. Now I think integrations are really key. I think there's lots of options around for integration. I know there's other talks during the iMoot talking about various things you can use like YouTube and things like that. There's lots of open source options which are really, really nice and easy to get hold of. There's other company offerings as well. So there's plenty of other people out there that offer plugins, offer things like that. Scorm, and as it develops Tin Can as well, will be key to this. So if you can turn around to a particular subject and say, right, here's your textbook, and I put it on the Moodle, so there's no excuses now if I've lost the textbook or left it at school. Everything's fully based in the Moodle now. That's really good. Now, Integration Lite is kind of something I've been using internally at work. And this is where it looks like an integration. There's a big button that says click here to get your emails, but you've not actually had to do any coding for it. So this is often for something like, you might have Outlook webmail at school, and you've looked at Moodle integration, it's just not really there yet, for instance. If you put a button on the front page of Moodle that says click here to get your emails, and it takes them to the login page for Outlook integration, that's still quite a good use of the Moodle. It's still putting everything in one place. So I think it's sad sometimes people have to build, I've seen schools build other splash pages, other links pages where Moodle is one of the links. What I'd rather see is Moodle be the splash page and your home page in school, and you have links to the other software in there. Creating these little blocks with links in can also be a good activity for your gifted intelligence students that we mentioned right at the beginning. So, getting them to create little blocks, create little test scripts to kind of redirect people as they're needed. So that can be a really good use of their time. Run slightly ahead there, but we're towards the end, so I'd like to open up to any questions if anyone wants to ask me anything. You can either use mics or throw it in chat. Yeah, I think the drop-down menu is really good as well. Just to answer Gordon's question, useful links on menus are good. The other thing that I've seen have been quite good are blocks down the side. You can use them custom HTML blocks or actually code it into a block. And we've actually seen people use things for, I know My Maths is very popular over here for maths questions. Not really seen integration for it yet, but a little My Maths logo that you click and it goes straight to the site. Again, makes life nice and easy. Even just links to things like exam timetables and stuff that might just be PDFs. Again, even if it doesn't really integrate, you can just show them and it makes it nice and easy. Anyone else want to quiz me or ask me any questions? We'll ask about library and reading lists. I've seen some, I've not really integrated any myself. But there's one called, I think it's called Integris over here, I think that's what it's called, that has been done. I think the key thing for the library services is to see if they actually have any APIs presentable. A lot of the time it's not actually that hard to integrate if they have something like LTI or a general API. I think I'd have to look more into that particular one to kind of come up with any ideas on Talis Aspire. But I have seen library lists integrated before into courses, so it's certainly something you can have a look on. And yeah, Mary, I really do wish the UK math site was a single sign-on, because it would make life a lot easier. And thank you, Stefan, I believe it is. Glad you enjoyed the session, and Ramesh as well. I think, Gavin, your site's moving a fair bit ahead of ours, because I've not really seen much done on LTI in the UK yet, so waiting and seeing. I have heard rumours the Open University are looking into it themselves, and they're kind of one of our very large Moodle drivers in the UK. So if they tend to lead, the rest of the Moodle community over here does tend to follow as well, which is quite good. Thank you, Jane. There you go. I think LTI is very new over here, so I think we have to kind of just wait and see. It was good to see you, Tim. We certainly like your modules that come out. I think we all need to get ourselves Mr. and Mrs. and Ms. Moodle badges onto our Moodles at home. Yeah, I mean that's the two things I'm really interested in at the moment is the LTI side of things, but also looking at the tin can stuff. I've been reading a lot of the documentation that's come out recently, and I think if that kind of lives up to the expectation, becomes a much more integrated version of SCORM, I think that could be a really interesting thing, because that's always been the criticism I've had of SCORM is it's good, but it's kind of quite static content, which can be quite bad. Yeah, I think that'll be certainly interesting, Richard, if there are more integrations between various really parts of the software. I think a lot of institutions now, particularly at the higher level, do often use a couple of suites of things. So it would be interesting to see if LTIs actually lead to those being together rather than being kind of competitive environments sort of thing. That's good, Paul. I hope you get things going. So the contact details for me are on the first slide, which I'll upload, but they're also on the course for this session as well. So if anyone wants to contact me afterwards, either by email or Twitter, or just add me on LinkedIn, everything's on the course, so you're more than welcome to there as well.
Right, so before everyone disappears, I'd just like to jump in and say thank you very much, Ben. That was a great practical session for people looking at wanting to have a go-to Mr. Moodle or Mrs. Moodle in their institution. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Time, for the effort put into your presentation. And I'm sure we'll see you around iMoot over the next 3 or 4 days. Once again, thank you very much. And I'd also like to thank our technology sponsors, Blindside Networks as well. The Big Blue Button technology has been working fantastically throughout iMoot so far and going to carry us right through to the end, no doubt, I'm sure. I'd just like to say a personal thanks to Fred for making himself and his staff available to assist us as well. So thank you very much, Ben. We'll leave the room open and people can, yep. And we'll leave the room open and people can keep continuing to chat and ask questions of Ben as they want to.
Thanks, guys. I hopefully speak to you all soon and see you in other sessions as well. And yeah, I have to see if I can control my cat for the Sunday session as well. You should have a attacked by a cat badge, I think, Julian, for the iMoot. At least you got to see her on screen. She attacked me twice today, so at least it's actually come up on screen. That's very good. I look forward to adding it to my backpack. I actually created my backpack for the first time this morning when I was prepping for the speech, so that's good. Thanks, Julian. I look forward to that. Should be good. See you later, Ramesh. Hope you enjoyed the session. As it's just us, so thank you to Julian, Leonie, and Fred for your help. I look forward to the Sunday repeat, and I'm going to log out of the room now. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you in another session soon.
You are currently the only person in this conference.